The Congressional hearing room fell into a heavy silence. Caroline Levit, the former White House press secretary turned first-term Congresswoman, stood composed at the witness table, her hand resting lightly on her laptop keyboard. Across from her sat Patel, the former Defense Department Chief of Staff, who had just delivered sharp testimony before the House Oversight Committee. Congresswoman Levit's views on national security reflect a basic misunderstanding of intelligence protocols, Patel stated firmly. Her public remarks show she is unqualified to assess classified information. The words, coming from a figure with Patel's intelligence background, carried weight. Committee members shifted uncomfortably, aware of how serious such an accusation was. Republican lawmakers looked particularly uneasy, seeing tension between two prominent figures from the previous administration. Yet Levit remained calm. She showed no sign of irritation or defensiveness. Mr. Chairman, may I respond with evidence? She asked evenly. When granted permission, she pressed a key on her laptop. Patel's own voice played through the chamber. Speakers an audio recording that directly contradicted his sworn testimony. What should have been a routine oversight session instantly became a pivotal moment that would shape future debates about intelligence oversight. If you want to see more moments where powerful figures are held accountable with undeniable evidence, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Patel had built a strong reputation in national security through a series of high-profile roles. Starting as a terrorism prosecutor for the Justice Department, he advanced to senior counterterrorism posts at the National Security Council, became principal deputy to the acting director of national intelligence, and eventually served as chief of staff at the Department of Defense during the previous administration. At 43, Patel was widely regarded as an authority on intelligence matters. His confidence and extensive experience with classified operations made him a sought-after commentator on national security. His recent memoir, Behind the Curtain, Inside America's Intelligence Community, further strengthened his reputation as an expert on intelligence protocols and decision-making. Patel had been outspoken about what he called the mishandling of intelligence by some members of Congress, arguing that many lacked the necessary background to evaluate classified information properly. Recently, he had directed much of his criticism at newer lawmakers who spoke publicly about intelligence issues. Caroline Levit's path had been very different. At 28, she had already worked as an assistant White House press secretary and communications director for a senior House Republican before winning election to represent New Hampshire's 1st District. Her rapid political rise made her both a promising figure within her party and a target for critics who questioned her readiness for national security oversight. Before entering politics, Levit graduated with honors in political science and briefly worked as a local news producer, giving her insight into media and policy messaging. What was less known about her was that, during her White House role, she attended National Security Council meetings and helped draft communications on sensitive intelligence matters, receiving specialized briefings on classification procedures. When assigned to the House Oversight Committee's National Security Subcommittee, she approached the position seriously, requesting additional classified briefings and consulting former intelligence officials from both parties. The conflict between Patel and Levit began 3 months earlier when Levit publicly questioned how intelligence had been handled in the previous administration. Without mentioning Patel directly, she suggested that political considerations sometimes outweighed established protocols during declassification. Patel responded aggressively in media interviews, calling her comments dangerous amateur analysis and accusing her of grandstanding on issues she didn't understand. He escalated matters with an op-ed questioning her qualifications, citing her age and limited formal intelligence background. What Patel didn't realize was that Levit had been carefully reviewing his public statements, comparing them with positions he held while in government. More importantly, she had secured recordings where Patel expressed views that contradicted his recent claims. The hearing where they faced each other had been scheduled to discuss intelligence sharing between agencies. with Patel invited as an expert witness. Few expected it to turn into a confrontation. Chairman Davis opened the session by outlining the agenda, reviewing interagency, intelligence protocols, and considering possible legislative updates. Patel, the first witness, used his opening remarks to stress the importance of experience in intelligence work, subtly questioning the expertise of some committee members. What began as a technical discussion shifted dramatically after Patel attacked Levit's qualifications. The wood-paneled chamber was full. Chairman Davis, a seasoned legislator with salt-and-pepper hair, managed proceedings with steady control. Patel sat upright at the witness table, a leather portfolio open in front of him. Mr. Patel, thank you for your testimony on intelligence sharing, Davis said. We'll now proceed with questions. Congresswoman Levit, you have the floor. Levit adjusted her microphone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Patel, in your statement, you emphasized strict compliance with classification protocols. Could you explain what you consider best practices for handling sensitive compartmented information? The question was technical and direct and expected from someone Patel had portrayed as inexperienced. He recovered quickly. Congresswoman, handling C material requires specialized training and extensive experience in classified settings. It's not something easily summarized here, he said, his tone slightly dismissive. Levit remained composed. I understand its complexity, Mr. Patel. Let's be specific. In recent interviews, you claimed the current administration loosened SCI access protocols. Can you name the executive order or directive responsible? Patel shifted in his chair. I referred to operational practices, not formal directives. My sources confirm a change in approach. So, no official policy change you can cite. Levit asked, not all changes are documented formally. Congresswoman, that's something you'd appreciate with more experience. Patel replied, this time more pointedly. A murmur moved through the room. Chairman Davis tapped his gavel. Let's maintain professionalism. Levit pressed on. In your book, you wrote, quote, classification decisions should remain nonpartisan, based solely on national security assessments. Do you still agree with that statement? Absolutely, Patel answered firmly. Classification must never be politicized. Levit looked directly at him. Yet, in 2019, while serving as Senior Director for Counterterrorism, you advocated expedited declassification of certain materials related to the Russia investigation. Isn't that correct? Critics argued those declassification requests were politically motivated. How do you reconcile that with your statement about keeping classification decisions nonpartisan? Levit asked. Patel's expression hardened. Those documents were improperly classified from the start. My actions were about transparency, not politics. So you personally decided the original classification was wrong, despite career intelligence officers saying otherwise. Levit pressed. Congresswoman, with respect. These are complex matters requiring a deep understanding of intelligence protocols, Patel replied. I had both the authority and the expertise to make that judgment. Levit remained composed. Let's move to more recent remarks. Last month on the National Security Podcast, you stated that members of Congress, without military or intelligence backgrounds, should defer to agency assessments rather than question classification decisions. Is that accurate? Generally, yes, Patel answered. Classification requires specialized knowledge. Yet in 2018, you wrote a memo urging political appointees to challenge career intelligence officials, claiming they sometimes use classification to avoid scrutiny. How do you explain that contradiction? Patel's irritation began to show. You're taking that completely out of context, Congresswoman. I have the full memo here, if you'd like me to read the surrounding paragraphs. Levit offered, holding up the document. That won't be necessary, Patel said curtly. The situations were entirely different. My point is that oversight requires proper expertise. Levit continued methodically, comparing Patel's recent testimony to his past statements and actions. Patel grew increasingly defensive, his earlier composure slipping. Finally, Patel snapped. Congresswoman Levit, these gotcha questions prove my concern. You're cherry-picking quotes without understanding the complex context of intelligence work. This is exactly why I've questioned your assignment to this committee. Even some Republican members appeared taken aback by Patel's blunt attack. Levit, however, remained steady. Patel continued, repeating his earlier charge. Congresswoman Levit's views on national security show a fundamental misunderstanding of intelligence protocols. Her public comments prove she's unfit to evaluate classified information. The room fell silent at this open attack on a committee member. Chairman Davis leaned toward his microphone. Mr. Patel, witnesses are expected to answer questions, not evaluate committee members. Mr. Chairman. It's relevant to this hearing, Patel insisted. How can Congress properly oversee intelligence when some members lack basic understanding of the field? Davis frowned. Committee assignments are not the subject today, Mr. Patel. Levit raised her hand. Mr. Chairman, may I respond? With evidence, after a pause, Davis nodded. Proceed, Congresswoman. Levit opened her laptop. Mr. Patel has questioned my qualifications to evaluate intelligence matters. I think the committee should hear Mr. Patel's own assessment of me. Given 6 months ago, before I questioned certain declassification decisions. She pressed a key. Patel's voice filled the chamber through the speakers. Caroline Levit is one of the sharpest new members on national security. During transition briefings, she asked the most insightful questions on SCIF protocols and classification standards. Her experience staffing NSC meetings gives her a foundation most committee members lack. I told Chairman Davis he made an excellent choice placing her on this subcommittee. When the recording ended, the room stayed silent. Patel's face paled as his own words directly contradicted his sworn testimony. Chairman Davis broke the silence. Mr. Patel, would you like to address this apparent contradiction? Patel tried to recover. That recording is taken out of context. My view changed after I'd better understood the Congresswoman's recent approach to sensitive issues. Levit responded calmly. The recording is from a security briefing 6 months ago, after I had already served on this committee nearly a year. It wasn't casual conversation. It was your formal assessment requested by the chairman during committee assignment reviews. She turned to Davis. Mr. Chairman, I have the full recording. Plus Mr. Patel's written evaluation, which makes similar assessments of my qualifications. Please proceed, Davis instructed. Levit played the longer recording, which included Patel citing specific examples of her appropriate handling of classified information. It was clear the assessment had been deliberate, not an offhand remark. As it played, several committee members took notes. The conflict between Patel's sworn testimony and his past statements was undeniable. When the recording ended, Representative Morton spoke. Mr. Chairman, we must address Mr. Patel's credibility. His testimony contradicts his own documented statements. Patel tried to explain. My evaluation changed based on the Congresswoman's public comments about declassification decisions. Professional opinions evolve as new information arises. Levit replied firmly, but professionally. Mr. Patel, the timing doesn't match your explanation. Your public criticism of me began 3 days after I questioned certain declassification decisions you approved as Defense Department Chief of Staff. Before that, you consistently described me as qualified, including in multiple interviews. She opened a folder, producing several transcripts. These are from your past media appearances, all praising my committee. Roll until I raised concerns about those declassification decisions. Her systematic presentation shifted the hearing's tone. What started as Patel's expert testimony had turned into an examination of his credibility and motives. Chairman Davis recognized the gravity of the moment. Given these discrepancies, we'll pause this questioning to allow Mr. Patel to review the materials. Congresswoman Levit, please submit all recordings and transcripts to the clerk. Mr. Patel, you'll address this after a brief recess. As Davis called the recess, reporters rushed out to file updates. Committee members huddled in quiet discussions. Patel, once confident, now sat alone, urgently consulting his attorney. When the session resumed 30 minutes later, Patel's demeanor was markedly different. The assured expert who had dismissed Levit was gone. In his place sat a cautious witness aware his credibility was at risk. Mr. Chairman, Patel began, after reviewing the materials, I must acknowledge my earlier testimony was not fully accurate. My assessment of the Congresswoman's qualifications changed after our disagreement on declassification decisions. Even this partial admission confirmed the core issue. Patel had questioned Levit's qualifications not because of genuine concern, but in response to her oversight actions. Chairman Davis pressed him, Mr. Patel, to confirm, you provided a positive evaluation of Congresswoman Levit's qualifications, and that changed only after she questioned your declassification decisions. Is that correct? After a pause, Patel answered, that is correct, Mr. Chairman. The admission made clear this was no misunderstanding. It was an attempt to undermine a committee member for political reasons. Representative Morton spoke again. Mr. Chairman, given this admission, I move that Mr. Patel's earlier testimony on Congresswoman Levit's qualifications be stricken from the record as false statements made under oath. Davis nodded. So ordered. The rare action of removing testimony from the official record dealt a significant blow to Patel's credibility. A major setback for someone whose career had long rested on his authority in national security matters. The implications were significant as the hearing returned to its original agenda of interagency intelligence sharing. Levit kept her questions focused strictly on policy, making no reference to the earlier confrontation. This professional restraint, sharply contrasting with Patel's personal attacks, strengthened her credibility with committee members and observers. By the end of the session, the dynamic had shifted entirely. The expert witness, who had confidently challenged Levit's qualifications, now faced serious doubts about his own credibility. While the Congresswoman he had tried to dismiss emerged as both prepared and composed. As Levit packed her materials, after adjournment, colleagues from both parties stopped to speak with her not to offer partisan praise, but to acknowledge her skillful handling of a challenging situation. She had defended her qualifications not with anger or counterattacks, but by presenting clear, documented evidence that spoke for itself. The moment was more than personal vindication. It marked a milestone for congressional oversight. It demonstrated that expertise should never be used to shield officials from legitimate scrutiny, regardless of a questioner's rank or background. The fallout from the Patel-Levit confrontation spread quickly beyond the hearing room. By evening, video clips of the exchange had gone viral across social media and major news outlets. The key moment, Levit playing Patel's own contradictory statement, became the most viewed congressional clip of the year. Its impact came not just from the dramatic reveal, but from what it symbolized about accountability in government. NBC's chief political correspondent summed up public reaction. What made today's exchange remarkable wasn't a gotcha moment, but how it exposed the misuse of expertise as a shield against oversight. Congresswoman Levit showed that preparation and evidence can balance the scales, regardless of seniority or credentials. For Patel, the professional consequences were immediate. 3 major news networks that regularly featured him as a security analyst announced they were reviewing their association with him. His publisher delayed the planned sequel to his memoir, citing a reassessment of its release. More seriously, the Senate Intelligence Committee announced it would review Patel's past testimony for inconsistencies similar to those revealed in the House hearing. Senator Warner, the committee chair, stated, when witnesses selectively use their expertise to push personal agendas rather than provide consistent, fact-based assessments, it undermines the oversight process. Patel avoided public appearances, cancelling scheduled interviews. When he eventually responded through a statement issued by his attorney, he described the issue as a misunderstanding about the evolution of my professional assessment, rather than admitting the clear contradictions Levit had exposed. Fact-checkers quickly pointed out that the timing and content of his prior statements contradicted this explanation, further eroding his credibility. For Levit, the hearing was a turning point in her congressional career. Once seen mainly as a young, media-focused representative, she was now recognized for her strong grasp of policy and her disciplined approach to oversight. Senior members from both parties began inviting her to sensitive briefings and investigative discussions. Chairman Davis later appointed her to lead a subcommittee task force on classification reform, praising her for the precise mix of knowledge and independence required for this sensitive work. Her handling of the Patel confrontation also influenced the broader culture of congressional oversight. Junior representatives cited her as an example of how to challenge senior officials effectively without resorting to theatrics or partisan attacks. The House Committee on Official Conduct even developed a training module for new members titled Evidence-Based Oversight. Using the Patel-Levit exchange as a case study in strategic questioning and witness management, the training stressed thorough preparation and documentation over reliance on seniority or deference to perceived expertise. Media coverage of congressional hearings also shifted in response. Networks that usually focused on partisan arguments began devoting more time to substantive policy discussions and evidence-driven oversight. Analysts coined the term the Levit approach to describe her methodical, evidence-focused questioning that prioritized accountability over performance. 6 months later, Georgetown University's Institute for Congressional Studies published an in-depth analysis titled Expertise and Accountability in Congressional Oversight. It concluded that the Levit-Patel exchange marked a critical step in strengthening congressional oversight culture. It showed that preparation and documented evidence can counter attempts to use credentials as a shield against legitimate questioning. The impact extended into the intelligence community as well. The incident prompted renewed debate about the balance between expertise and accountability, particularly in classification decisions. Former intelligence officials, who had often defended colleagues facing congressional scrutiny, began stressing the need for consistent standards and transparent justification for classification. James Clapper, former director of national intelligence, told CNN that hearing wasn't just about one official's credibility, it exposed a broader tension between specialized knowledge and democratic accountability. Representative Levit showed that real oversight doesn't mean accepting expertise at face value. It means testing claims against evidence. A year later, Levit introduced bipartisan legislation to reform classification practices, incorporating input from civil liberties, advocates, and security experts. The Classified Information Transparency Act set clearer standards for classification and strengthened whistleblower protections for reporting abuses. The bill gained rare bipartisan support. During the floor debate, Levit reflected, "My exchange with Mr. Patel wasn't about personal vindication. It was about a fundamental principle. Expertise should guide oversight, not block it. No official, no matter their credentials, should be beyond accountability when national security and democratic governance are at stake." The legislation passed with strong bipartisan backing, and President Adams, signing it in a Rose Garden ceremony, specifically acknowledged Levit's role. This bill shows how evidence-based oversight can strengthen both our security and our democracy. The legacy of the Patel-Levit confrontation went far beyond the two individuals involved. It demonstrated powerfully that effective congressional oversight depends not on rank, seniority, or reputation, but on preparation, substantive knowledge, and evidence. As Professor Jonathan Turley wrote in a Washington Post analysis on the third anniversary of the hearing.